Paleo-Indians were the people who inhabited what is now Ohio for thousands of years, according to archaeologists. They created a sophisticated society, as evidenced by the mud mounds they utilized for rituals, burials, and maybe defense. They traded with other tribes before eventually disappearing, making way for other Native American tribes to occupy the area in the West. Don't forget to subscribe to Ancient History for fascinating insights into the mysteries of the ancient world and captivating historical narratives. Ohio held great potential as a part of the Northwest Territory following the American Revolution. The soil was ideal for farming, and people flocked there with the intention of starting over. In Ohio, the conclusion is still valid today. Even while farming still occupies a large portion of the state, the people and their history embody the spirit of the American Midwest and demonstrate how hard work and determination can transform any situation. How did Ohio come to be? Native Americans were the first people to live in Ohio, but European fur traders soon crossed the Appalachian Mountains to trade with them. Even though they weren't officially supposed to trespass on Native American territories, American squatters swiftly followed the Europeans. Historians do not recognize them as official settlers. An ordinance for the government of the territory of the United States northwest of the River Ohio was issued in 1787 by the Confederation Congress, which governed America from 1781 to 1789. This document is commonly referred to as the Northwest Ordinance. Following the American Revolution, America gained control of the Northwest Territory. To divide the territory into 5 states, outlaw slavery, and sell land to settlers, the government utilized the Northwest Ordinance. But the settlers in Ohio soon found out they were not alone in their house. Tensions increased despite the settlers' best efforts to keep the Native Americans at peace, as they had no intention of ceding their country. Hostilities escalated to undeclared conflict by 1789. Near the village of Losantiville in southwest Ohio, the United States erected Fort Washington in 1789. Cincinnati was given a new name by General Arthur St. Clair, but as the city expanded, he was obliged to move his forces to a new fort in 1791, Fort Hamilton. This kept the inexperienced soldiers away from distractions like bars and brothels, but it did not provide them an advantage against the Native Americans. On November 4th, 1791, the Native Americans launched an attack led by Little Turtle and Blue Jacket. With a surprise attack, they completely destroyed St. Clair's forces, resulting in 623 fatalities and 258 injuries. Because of their overwhelming victory, this conflict came to be known as St. Clair's defeat. George Washington forced him to retire in 1792, and President Thomas Jefferson removed him from office as governor soon after. The Native Americans formed partnerships with the British and were more determined than ever to drive the settlers from their territories. Yet the U.S. started making large military investments in the Northwest Territory. In 1792, they named General Anthony Wayne as the new commander, and he founded Legionville to prepare incoming soldiers for battle. General Wayne was adamant on driving the Native Americans out of Ohio and making them submit to the U.S. government. General Wayne marched to the Ohio River as soon as he believed the soldiers were sufficiently trained. No American should be permitted to cross the river, according to the Native Americans' desire to draw a border there. Wayne disagreed with the British idea and persisted in moving north and west. When Native American troops successfully attacked a pack train that was barely 200 yards from Fort Recovery in June 1794, hostilities eventually broke out. However, they were unable to conquer the fort, and when the Native Americans asked the British for help, they chose not to intervene. Wayne persisted in driving the Indians west, and on August 20th, 1794, they ultimately reconnected at the Battle of Fallen Timbers. After barely an hour or so of fighting, the Native Americans withdrew and fled toward British Fort Miami, which turned them away. They came to the realization that Wayne's forces were stronger than them and that the British were not going to stand by them. The Native Americans consented to meet with Wayne in February 1795 to talk about terms for peace. In August 1795, they signed the Treaty of Greenville, which awarded the American settlers possession of the land in modern-day Ohio while forcing the Native Americans to go west into what is now Indiana. Ohio was now overrun with people who were suffering from Ohio fever. Everyone aspired to become wealthy, and Ohio's wealth was derived from its fertile soil, which could support farms, mills, and ports. Rich natural resources were available, and the Ohio River made shipbuilding possible in the region. The natural timber in the region was utilized by this new business to build riverboats, which eventually made their way to the Gulf of Mexico and New Orleans via the Ohio and Mississippi rivers. Even though many of the first Ohioans still lived on farms, cultivating crops like maize and apples and animals like pigs, communities started to flourish as more people moved there. Ohio's statehood was a top priority for Thomas Jefferson when he was elected president, in part because he wanted to win over more Democratic Republicans. Ohio became the 17th state on February 19, 1803, despite not yet having 60,000 residents. The state celebrates its statehood on March 1st, though, since that was the day the Ohio State Legislature convened. From this point on, Ohio grew even more, founding Ohio University and engaging in land disputes with Native Americans. But Ohio's industry made one of the biggest contributions to American history. How did Ohio's business expand? The industrial sector in Ohio did not always prosper or grow in a straight line. For instance, it prospered during the War of 1812 when the U.S. Army required food and rope made in Ohio. But after the war ended, the need declined and the Panic of 1819 resulted. Paying off debt and having trouble with the U.S. Bank were the main causes of the economic catastrophe. Ohioans had to find other ways to make money since they didn't have a war to sustain them. In the 1820s and 1830s, the Ohio and Erie Canal was their main endeavor. The Ohio and Erie Canal originally connected Lake Erie to the Ohio River, establishing a roadway and fostering Ohio's industries. The Erie Canal connects Lake Erie to New York. The Erie Canal connected Ohio to the East Coast, which purchased products including grain, pig, cheese, and whiskey, even though it took 8 years to finish. Ohio had the 4th highest population in the country by 1830. Cincinnati was the first city in the West to rank among the top 10 cities in the country. Pork production, which was mostly finished in the fall and winter when the meat wouldn't spoil as rapidly, was the foundation of Cincinnati's economy. Cincinnati, the heart of the pork industry, soon expanded its population and riches. There were many gardens and walking trails, spacious streets and brick buildings. Some even dubbed it the Paris of the West. Cincinnati was a hub for new ideas and styles that originated on the East Coast. Ohio was no longer America's frontier, and the construction of the Erie and Kalamazoo Railroad line only served to fuel industry's growth, as rail lines started to wind through the state. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad was the first line to leave the state, thus strengthening Ohio's border with the East Coast. Ohio had a significant role in the African American and women's civil rights movements. Women were more involved in politics and society in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, advocating for women's suffrage and the temperance movement. A few years before Congress enacted the 19th Amendment in 1916, women were granted the right to vote in Ohio communities. The NAACP was involved in Ohio politics from the start, working to remove corrupt police officers and shield African American soldiers from discrimination in locations like Camp Sherman, a major training ground for World War I. However, the state did not address racial issues as fast or skillfully. During the same period, African Americans started migrating north in search of better opportunities in manufacturing. This movement, known as the Great Migration, witnessed a notable increase in the African American population in Springfield, Ohio. Ohio still has strong political divisions today. The Northeast is Democratic, the Southwest is Republican, and the middle of the state is unstable. As the global economy has expanded and removed manufacturing jobs from the states, the industries and cities in the state have altered. Still, Ohioans stick together because of their common history and commitment to keeping it that way. Ohio has experienced the arrival and departure of numerous distinct cultures. Because historical structures and sites are now protected, people can look into the past, see what Ohio was like in the past, and perhaps even get a glimpse of what Ohio might look like in the future. That's all for this video. We will be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share this video. To keep exploring ancient history together, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Until next time!